Hey there, so I'm Ron Barton.
I'm Lou and Rone,
and we are the creators of Grimmerspace for IMGN Games.
We're here at the Underground Beacon, the friendly local game store in Beacon, New York, and we're going to be telling you and talking to you about Grimmerspace.
The game content, who we are, what we've been through,
what we're doing,
and the Kickstarter offering itself. Broken down in many pieces, many videos. Hope you like this table because you're going to see it about 49 more times. The Gliding Rim Galaxy. Lou, show us on this chart behind you.
So the Gliding Rim Galaxy is shaped like a vortex.
Grimmerspace takes place within the Gliding Rim Galaxy, which is also known as the G-Rim. And the natives of the Gliding Rim Galaxy call themselves Grimmers. So talk about the actual...
Think of it like a tornado or a vortex. The top of it is a plate. The center of the plate is called the crux. If you're still on the plate, you move out to the edge of it. That edge of the plate is called the edge. Everything below it is the gyre.
The gyre. And here there be dragons.
Yes, things come out of the gyre. And the history of the civilizations, technological civilizations of the crux, are fighting to push out toward the edge against the things that have come out of the gyre and taken up inhabiting the edge.
And anybody who goes down the gyre don't come back.
Yeah, no,
not a probe nor human. No?
Or not the same.
Well, one of the things we should talk about are some of the prime baddies in our setting. Ones creating a lot of the setting tension. And those are the users of magic, because the Gliding Rim Galaxy has always been a technical, rational civilization, except in its ancient times, with its mythologies, of course. But now it's very sci-fi, and everything is cold and reasonable. And in through a purple tear in the nighttime sky comes these mages from far away, these very high-level wizards. And the force of magic, the effect of magic is actually pouring into the Gliding Rim Galaxy.
For the very first time.
For the very first time. So these Thunder Mages have been slowly drilling through space in a vortex that's taken thousands of years, very long time, to drill through, and they've been evolving and turning into something very inhuman. And they're going to be one of the worst things you've ever seen. Cenobites move over.
And an important thing to understand about the Thunder Mages is that they originate in the default Starfinder role-playing game setting. And they've spent millennia making their way to this non-magical end of the galaxy, and they show up and they go, there's no magic here. This is going to be easy. But what they don't understand is that the Grimmers of Grimmerspace have been fighting alien abominations as their entire history. And when they finally start getting into it, the Grimmers of Grimmerspace are like, if they ever get over their original problems, they're going to lock and load and be like, yeah, buddy, that's what you think. And so we've got a setting where it's magic versus bullets, where it's fireballs versus grenades.
You choose the way you want to play. You like magic in space, have at it. You want to shoot a mage in the neck, as we like to say?
Yeah.
So as we've said, things don't come back from the gyre. But something did come out of the gyre recently, and that would be the HODRAK.
An entire species.
Yeah, they're driven up. They're a warrior race that hails from a heavy gravity planet where there's so much radiation and heavy metals in the atmosphere, but they're able to absorb this stuff, chelate it out through the bone plating that they grow all around them. So that bone is harder than bone. It's like power armor hard. And when they were escaping from something much more terrifying than even them, and that's hard to be, they come up over the edge of the G-Rim, and they're going to head in and they're going to conquer and find a new homeworld, but they see that million miles across, that luminous white purple tear in space-time that the Thunder Mages came through, and that ties into their legend and their mythology.
Yeah.
They are meant to follow those who come through a purple tear in the nighttime sky. So they go off to become the shock troops of the Thunder Mages.
The Thunder Mages take advantage of that.
So if you're playing a Grimmer, you likely hail from one of 5 polities. These are technical civilizations, each like a star nation unto itself. And the eminent spectrality is a place where you'll experience Gothic horror, because these people, despite it being sci-fi and their world being advanced and technologically gifted, they're superstitious, and they have a reason to be. They have a festival called Tarthazio every couple of years, and this has to do with the alignment of the moons and syzygy and things like that. And they have this flying ziggurat called the Zis Flow, and the priest there will conduct a festival where they'll bring in these willing participants who experience like a 2-week bacchanal.
Craziness.
Everything they want, the best of everything, after which they really get the worst of everything. They get their heads lopped off and their bodies dropped onto the 13 crypt moons below them. And there's a reason why in the next video. So why cut off the head of thousands of people and throw their bodies into space? And I don't know what they're doing.
Other than the fun?
Other than the fun.
Other than the
fun of it. And it has to do with the fact that the people down on those cryptomoons live in places that were already built. And the people who built them are gone, or whatever built them is gone.
They think of them as the elder builders, right? But they think that their ghosts live on. This is their superstition. And so they feel that they need to appease them, or that all sorts of horrible things will happen to them. Because the eminent spectrality, the leaders especially, live in fear of death and are constantly pursuing life extension, and this permeates their entire society. So they're always looking for a way out.
And they might be right, these ghosts might actually be real.
They might.
And so, when you come from a particular polity, we do have a few Grimmerspace flavored character classes you can play. Now, the eminent spectrality, which we were just talking about, we have a character class called the Recombinator, because these are people who are bioengineers, very concerned with finding ways to live longer and what
life extension, yeah.
Sure.
So monkeying around with the foundational basics of life, recombinant DNA, it seemed really natural that what would grow out of that would be you creating little bits of life, and that seemed to fit really naturally with the mechanics. So instead of making a
mechanic class of Starfighter.
The mechanic class Starfighter. So instead of creating a drone, you learn how to create, build, and grow with your character class something that is an expression of you, that is your little creature, and that creature develops abilities just as you develop abilities, and you extend it.
Okay. Another one of our polities, a big one, is the ATTIEN Combine. The ATTIEN Combine is ruled by these trade barons on a planet called ATTIEN Prime, and each baron has his own mega arcology. And the mega arcologies aren't just arcologies that can hold a city, they hold a nationwide. They can hold like up to 1 billion people. The highest levels are so high that they're weightless. And the lowest levels, well, that's probably where I'd be able to afford rent. Because this is a social strata here is literal. You know, the higher up you are, the better you're doing. And each of these mega arcologies looks like a gem from outside. So the planet looks studded in these gems that you can actually see from space.
They go all the way to space, yeah. So they're absolutely huge. And of course, living in the bottom is an absolute hell. And living in the top, you're literally free from all care and concern that you're weightless.
And ultimately, the trade barons, if they can solve a problem by throwing bodies at it, they will. So, one other thing about the ATTIEN Combine, which is, it's also where you're going to get your, like, Judge Dredd. It's where you're going to get the Raid, you're going to get...
Yeah, you're going to get...
Blade Runner.
You're going to get some version of Takeshi Kovacs from...
okay, great.
Morgan.
So these are, you know, a lot of arcology adventures, a lot of city adventures. And so our character class for the ATTIEN Combine is called the ARCOP, capital ARC, Arcology Cop, basically. And these are cops that have authority within their own arcology, and some have authority in multiple arcologies or all arcologies.
And some get loaned out to the equivalent of Interpol within all of the policies.
Sure. So, like, if you like Altered Carbon, there's a place.
Yeah, Altered Carbon is what I was talking about.
Yeah. I just want to tell them.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So, one of the real interesting things about playing an ARCOP is the ARCOP's piece. And an ARCOP's piece is a really special gun. Mm-hmm. One of the things that makes it special is that there's a former ARCOP inside it. Not like all crushed up, but basically the part of the brain that has memories and remembers most of its entire past life is collected voluntarily, like you have to volunteer for this thing, you know, and the retired, obviously dead detective gets put into the gun. And this is done not by the ATTIENs, they don't have the technology to do it.
But by the eminent spectrality.
By the eminent spectrality.
Right. And they insert them in, and then your partner is actually a former ARCOP.
Who can talk to you.
Right, and help operate your gun.
And there's a ritual where you have to go to the eminent spectrality, all new archives. You bond with your piece because this weapon will level up as you level up.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so talk about
Yeah,
ammunition.
no, so I want to talk about the ammunition for a second because I wanted to design a weapon that was actually multifaceted because the ARCOP has multiple roles within an arcology and outside an arcology. So the weapon, as you'll see when you see the one we actually created in real life, has 3 triggers because you can call on it to load up 3 different kinds of ammunition. It can load up crowd control ammunition, direct fire ammunition, and it can load up tranquilizing or capture ammunition. So you got 3 different triggers, and you can load them into different combinations. Like top 2 triggers will do double loads of crowd suppression. All 3 triggers will now max out on auto fire for projectiles. You know,
Just another day in law enforcement.
right. Each individual trigger will have a different kind, or all 3 triggers will lob mini grenades.
Sure.
You know, and then you can have a panoply of grenades.
Another polity is called the VOTIKUN Empire, and it was created by Lou and Rone. So why am I talking? But basically, this is 2 separate worlds with 2 separate people, completely different, even elementally different, and yet they're pals. And that's a rare thing to be, especially
in Grimmerspace.
Especially in Grimmerspace.
Trying to eat
So
space.
let's start with Kandara. Tell them about
Yeah. So you have a water people, aquatic, low gravity, and something shows up in their world that is, you know, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's huge, it's powerful. It's called the Benefactor. It towers into the sky, and they all come to it and surround it in awe, and it sucks some of them in, and what it spits out are Einsteins and Martin Luther Kings.
They've evolved from just guppy people
Right.
to spacefaring in ships that are
in generations.
In generations.
It uplifts them to the stars, and when they get to the stars.
So yeah, speaking of the VOTIKUN Empire, when the Kandarans get to the stars, they go to their nearest neighbors and they discover...
Well, they discover that they're in a binary system and they have another planet in the same life band. And it's a volcanic planet with heavy gravity. And there is a heavy worlder species there, volcanic. And they make friends almost instantly. And then they in turn uplift that people to the stars. And they're the Voti. And
The Voti are heavy worlders, so
Heavy,
they're almost as wide as they
muscled,
are.
right.
They have these huge cannon backs, these rifles, I mean these cannons that come up, these chain guns
Right.
that shoot, that look wherever they aim, and they can do that without power armor. They're so strong.
Right, they become the Marines pretty
Yeah.
much, or the bulk of the armed forces of the newly formed VOTIKUN Empire. And this is the VOTIKUNs are on the edge more than any other polity.
Yeah,
And more,
yeah, they have a saying because they keep the things from the edge back until the torch goes cold. So one of the polities you can hail from is called the SOMNIUM MELD. This is a fascinating place. What do you tell us
Yeah.
about that?
So in the SOMNIUM MELD, everybody is connected through direct neural interlink. Originally intended as a research tool so that everyone could collaborate and have access to everyone's knowledge. Some members of the SOMNIUM MELD found a way to upload even further. They discovered that the collective unconsciousness was real and actually part of a quantum realm, and they moved onto that quantum realm and became like unto gods. And that shaped the entire connected world's society. And from that quantum realm, they began to influence huge swaths of that society in very subtle ways. Other members who hadn't uploaded raised themselves up and became the popes that would interpret these quantum rumblings that were shaping everyone.
And the people who the gods of this realm are called the Magi, and those sainted prophets, the popes who follow each of the individual Magi, are called the Onironauts. But you'll learn more about the Onironauts and the Magi and all of that later. Right now, let's talk about a related character class that you can play that hails from the SOMNIUM MELD, and that will be called the Inheritor. So, right, in case we come up with a better name, because we're arguing off camera about what it might be. But the SOMNIUM MELD Inheritor is a fascinating class because not only, unlike the prophets who hear the Magi's voice, the Inheritor can also eavesdrop in. And in game, that gives a sort of like lore ability, right?
Yeah, it gives the ability to get some prognostication, get skill abilities, but it's like a psychic ability that the polity is looking for. But if you develop it as a character class...
So yeah, we'll learn about the Dream Magi, and we'll learn about the Onaronauts later. That's in-game setting stuff. But the character you can play is one that actually hears the voice of the Dream Magi, called the Inheritor class. And what's fascinating about that, besides just hearing the thoughts of the Dream Magi and having that lore ability, is also your ability to...
Well, to build up your own archetype, to, in the quantum stream, see reflections of yourselves and reflections of the collective unconscious, and meet or create, very unclear distinction, a creature that is a reflection of you and a reflection of the world, that is an independent entity, and to partner with that entity, so much so that over time you can begin to manifest it in the real world.
So you're basically wearing like a ghost monster suit that has you raised up in the air. You could just be calm while this aspect of yourself, this reflection of yourself,
The spirit guide that also takes you through the dream world,
is tearing your enemies apart. So a polity I created years ago. It's called the THRIFTIC binary. And yeah, the THRIFTIC binary is a couple of different places, a few different places. You've got this planet of rich roboticists where robots care for every need you could have, and next door you've got Gylor, which is a junkyard planet, like what you'd see in Soldier with Kurt Russell, you know. And between the two, there's a moon off Gylor called Diliv, and kind of like Hong Kong, the rich Fizurans were the first to spacefarer.
Endless Mall.
The Endless Mall. They built the Endless Mall there. They leased it from the poor Gylorans.
Told you it was a horror.
They're eating like cat food and living in like junk huts. And the Fizurans basically have Mall of the Americas on their entire moon. So they get to look up at night and see that. That leads to a lot of tension. 17, the Endless Mall and its endless troubles. So as I was saying, there's an in-game tension between the rich people who are milk-fed from birth by these robo-nannies, and they're a little soft and sentimental, and then you've got these people who fought for everything they have. And you've got this you've got this moon in between that's been leased by the rich people. The poor people have to look up and be offended by it. But this moon is a place, it's an endless mall. Imagine an entire moon that's many miles high. Just you could buy anything you want in the entire galaxy there. Everybody's...
And that's the scary part. Not only can you people do go there to buy absolutely everything and anything, not necessarily to their health or well-being.
And you'd say, well, you know, how's that the basis of anything that's horror? We'll show you. A faction that exists centered around Gylor, the junkyard planet, is Touchdown Salvage. And Touchdown Salvage is a faction that many people, including yourself, can belong to. And you are basically the salvagers of Grimmerspace.
Yeah, the THRIFTIC binary, unified by the philosophy of thrifticism, licenses salvage companies. Touchdown is the most famous one. But they also have a tendency to show up and check in like this. Hey, is there anyone on that ship? Oh, great, no one's on that ship. Start the salvage operation. And you could be on that ship. So
yeah, everything's got a dark side, but you know, you could be a good Touchdown Salvage person. But that's one of those factions you could be affiliated with.
Yeah, well, it is Grimmerspace.
Yep. There is a class that you can have in Grimmerspace and a faction you can belong to, and that's called a CRYPTOMONK. Now, this is a very Grimmerspace flavored monk. What this is someone who's accessed the dark web and found that there's a cabal of conspiracy theorists out there who believe that the aliens are among us, hidden among us, and perhaps even in positions high in power.
Controlling all the polities, or your neighbor.
Right, so what they do is there's also schematics up there for personal armor and weaponry that's not based on any technology known in Grimmerspace.
Or in the Crux, right.
Right, well, in the Crux, right.
And stuff you can make from everyday objects.
Right.
And manuals of arms and training for martial arts for use against aliens.
So you have a bunch of lone wolves following something called the Cabal Spectralis that's very good at telling you where those hidden aliens are going to be. Now, another faction in Grimmerspace is the Watchers of STARSET, and they've got a very apocalyptic outlook of the universe, and they're trying to learn things. They operate more like the FBI, more like gumshoes. They're investigators. But they work with and against sometimes the Cabal Spectralis.
Well, they have a similar opinion that there's something out there that's infiltrated the Crux, and they think that something even worse is coming. And they're kind of fatalistic about that, some of them. And the rest of them are trying to stop it. So they'll go to any length to
get their hands
to
on
get their hands
they
on
want to get their hands on aliens and they want to interrogate them, you know, light in the face style, where the Cabal Spectralis wants to groin kick the aliens to death into a smooth jelly.
The Watchers of STARSET want to get them, interrogate them, and you don't know whether they want to join that force that's coming so they can be on the right side of victory, or whether they want to fight it.
So, all right, who doesn't love to talk about immigration? Well, we in Grimmerspace, there's this race that's come into Grimmerspace all around the edge, and a lot of conspiracy theorists say that these aliens are from the Gyre. They're not human, they're red-skinned, they're smaller, and they're unusually good in weightless environments. It's as if they were born to be in space, never to be on a planet. And they're called the Jum. And they're a peaceful people, but like I said, they came in from the top of Grimmerspace on all sides, concentration.
And they've been around for a while, and
they've integrated, but there's a lot of sentiment against them. They are taking jobs, actually, because it's great to have one in your ship.
Yeah, they're playable.
The Cabal Spectralis sees that as confirmation that there's alien races. Only the Jum aren't hidden. Do the Jum have motivations to take over, supplant anybody, or are they just a peaceful people?
They're technic, they're skilled.
You'll find out. Well, one fascinating faction that we have is the Subayim. And the Subayim are these caravans in space, these travelers, these like Romany stars. Decentralized except when they get together every couple of years.
Right, for their massive festival market.
Sure. What's fascinating about these guys is that they're pretty serious people. If you need forbidden alien tech, or if you find forbidden alien tech,
that's their stock and trade.
They will buy it, and they have uncanny abilities to, through experimentation, the infinite monkeys, they will put different pieces of ancient alien tech that have been found all over.
Right, make the sum greater than the parts.
Right.
Create.
They combine these chimera of things that they
and
don't
you can
really
learn
understand.
That skill.
Yeah.
You can learn how to do it. You can become a friend or a foe of them. They will hunt you if they want.
Best to be
your
a friend. Definitely best to be a friend.
Better to be a friend.
Serious people.
Right.
So, you know, it seems silly, but how are you gonna have not have space pirates, right?
Space pirates.
So we have an evil faction. I mean, they're really just evil, you know. No, well, we'll see that. Yeah. So we have this evil faction called the Shum Corsarium, and what to say about them? It's basically like a bunch of pathological, psychotic killers.
But smart.
Smart, very smart. And they got together in a structure where they have enough ships that they could actually face down a royal navy.
Yeah, it's like the high days of piracy, where they've got their own independent pirate nation. They come together and no one's able to put them down.
There's more than we can say about them. Just they're a captain of any given ship might have a flood blade.
Right.
And a flood blade, which is this sort of
liquid
sentient metal.
That only adheres to the most evil and vicious.
And it may have come from something we're going to talk about next, the Golem Moon. Well, Grimmerspace has its mysteries. Grimmerspace has its mysteries. And one of them is the Golem Moon.
Yes.
So that this thing, legend has it, starts that it's like a bullet flying through space, and yet something about terror makes it grow. So it likes to create terror. And it's created enough of it that it is now the size of a moon.
Right.
You can go down onto this moon, and it'll look like a structure that you can enter. And as you enter it, any who have formerly died within the moon, sort of liquid steel representations of themselves, will try to scare the hell out of you and kill you if they have
so
to
that
get
it can
that
get
terror.
bigger. Right.
Yeah, so that it can get bigger. So, as we were saying before, it looks like the Shum Corsarium might have grabbed a piece of this moon, and they have these amazing weapons.
Right. Because to become a captain, you have to be fearless enough to enter a moon, take a blade, and leave, or you can't become a Shum Corsarium captain.
In Grimmerspace, there's certainly some science fantasy magic going on, because science fantasy creatures have invaded a science fiction galaxy, and their science fantasy magic is flowing in through the sea. However, a faction out there, who are they? Maybe you'll find out. They found a way to take some of that magic, bind it to an element, and sell it in a way that's like an illicit drug and is ubiquitous throughout the polities of Grimmerspace. You put it in an injector, you inject it into your eye with a stab, and you now have the magic.
And that magic is grittier, it's unique, it's more powerful, It's a little twisted. It's dare I say, grimmer.
Yeah, and depending on where you're on the timeline of Grimmerspace, it's dangerous.
Right.
There are some really exotic and distant places you can visit, and one of those places on the edge is a place that people travel to quite often to speak to the dead. Not many are able to find or be guided to the place.
This one's legendary.
It's called the City of Morn, M-O-R-N. And the thing about the City of Morn is when you go into it, and it's the non-Euclidean geometry of the interior, when you look out windows, you're probably not looking out in the same place twice, because the City of Morn moves through many different locations,
Many different
times
and places. It's ever shifting, and you can hear the echoes of your lost loved ones,
or of anybody
so
from the
legends
past
say.
you want to talk to. Yeah, but there's always a cost.
And there's always a price to pay if you can even find the place to begin with.
And rumor has it that one of those locations is in the Gyre. Other places on the edge. What about the planet TARMIRE? Now, TARMIRE is beautiful and desolate. White salt planet, crystalline mountains sprouting up here and there. Why would you go
crystalline civilization?
Yeah, why would you go there? There doesn't appear to be much. Well, archaeologists love to go there because something is under the salt.
Yeah, there's an entire civilization buried there, an ancient alien civilization that they're investigating, and no one knows why it vanished. So of course that's a mystery. Well, what's also buried in the salt or in hibernation, like brine shrimp, are the very creatures that destroyed it. And all it takes is a little bit of liquid to wake them up. And of course, we're made of liquid.
Yeah, right. Or if somebody slaps a Schlitz out of your hand, get ready to fight. Yeah.
I know. Something's going to wake up.
Now, another place you might find interesting on the edge are the ice mines of On. And what happened was the richest people in all of Grimmerspace were on this huge space liner, and it crash landed while traveling to a distant part of Grimmerspace. And these were the oligarchs who were on a maiden voyage.
Yeah.
And
like the Titanic.
And where it crashed, an entire civilization sprang up around the towns, around the crash ship called the Town of Crash, which was a name that actually came from the artist who did the picture.
Right.
There is so much to say about this place, and the fact that a civilization, a force of miners who mine the methane gases out of the centers of these asteroids, and,
that are surrounding it.
And the strange culture that's been built up, more than we can explain in one video.
Which is why I was quiet, just let them talk.